Whew. This is a really, really tragic case. I said earlier this morning, there are no winners in this one, no matter who prevails, because we have a life lost and many lives changed forever. Let's bring in our guest now and talk a little bit about whether this was a murder or whether this was a justifiable homicide. Trial attorney Jamie White on the program today. Good to see you, Jamie. Jamie, give me your initial assessment, seeing the facts we've seen so far come into evidence, the video evidence. What are your initial impressions of this case that we're seeing in Wisconsin?
So respectfully, I agree with your initial comments. This is a tragic situation. You know, what we've seen, I live in Michigan, which is adjacent to Wisconsin. We have a lot of the same politics. There's a lot of, even though Wisconsin, I don't believe, has a stand your ground statute, you know, there seems to be this mentality that you can go out and take matters into your own hands when not necessarily that doesn't need to be. And so, you know, I feel for all the parties here, but this young man should not have been stabbed, period. You know, the classic self-defense line across all 50 states is if you are literally in immediate harm of serious bodily harm or death, then you have the ability to do that. This just wasn't the case. And just to give you a parable, I have a friend who's he's an ex-detective, and we played golf all the time and fished all the time, and he dealt with the most serious people, you know. But when he wasn't on duty, he never had a gun. And I asked him one time, I said, "Why don't you carry a gun, you know, off duty, being a young attorney?" And he said, because it's hard to take a butt whipping with a gun on. And I just think there's something to be said for this, stopping people from taking violent matters further than they need to be.
Jamie White, thanks for weighing in. I'm so glad we have you on the show today. Stand by, please. What is this witness's testimony doing for the state's case? Let's talk about it now with our guest, trial attorney Jamie White, standing by, watching along, giving analysis from Michigan. As Jamie noted, very close to Wisconsin, similar laws on the books, similar politics in place. Tell us, what are you seeing with this witness's testimony and how it may be moving the ball forward for the state?
Well, I think what the state is showing is that there was no imminent threat of bodily harm or death on the part of the defendant, and they're doing that through witnesses that aren't necessarily friendly to the defendant, and they're doing a very effective job at it, Julie. And I expect to hear more of this going forward, because, you know, the video is extremely disturbing. I watched it once and I haven't watched it twice, but at the end of the day, this was a fight. And we've come to a point in our society where do we pull out guns and knives and clubs to deal with fights? And a lot of people think so, and I think a lot of people think not so. And I think the state of Wisconsin is going to find this man guilty. Now, did he premeditate murder? No, of course not. I mean, this was not premeditated, but this is certainly something that he's culpable for, and I will be shocked if he's not held culpable for.
Jamie White, thanks so much for sharing your opinions on this. We're going to hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear more from this young man who was stabbed in that tragic altercation.